Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Return to the Mother World Dancing with the Dark Feminine Summit, where we honor the Great Mother and the rise of the Divine Feminine and reconnect with ancient feminine wisdom so that we can feel more rooted, grounded, and empowered during this incredible collective planetary shift that we are in. This summit leads us into the nurturing, life-giving, deconstructive, and transformational realms of the dark feminine, and is intended to be an exploration of those liminal, mysterious spaces that are often feared, yet can also offer us our greatest gifts, insights, and healing opportunities. As such, the summit is a sacred call to action for embracing, integrating, and dancing with the dark goddess in all her delicious embodiments. I'm Emmi Mutale, and I'm your host and the creatrix of this gathering. And I'm excited to have all of you with us. And I am also super, super excited to welcome my special guest for today, Sarah Poet. Welcome, Sarah.
Hey, Emmy. Hi, everyone. So good to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you with us, Sarah. And I can't wait to see where our conversation is going to take us today.
Mm.
But before we dive any deeper, Sarah, let me just introduce you to our audience as well. So Sarah is a truth seeker, thought leader, and a medicine woman for modern times. It's Sarah's mission to assist women and men as we awaken to the imbalances of the feminine and masculine, and to help bridge humanity from separation to connection. She's the host of the Sacred Remembering podcast and works to bolster women's sovereignty, inherent value, and prosperity through leading edge energetics in her work. Sarah directly serves couples, individuals, and organizations as a deeply healing coach and consultant. And Sarah has been on my podcast, Sacred Feminine Power, before, and I've also had the honor of being on her podcast. And I love the depths that we go to when we start to chat and the kinds of themes and topics that we are comfortable discussing as well, even though they might be very uncomfortable for a lot of people. So Sarah, really honored to have you here.
So honored to be here. Thank you, Emmy, and thank you again for the spaces that you hold. Yeah, it's
Mm,
really important.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Sarah, I would love to start by asking you, what does the sacred, not the sacred feminine, but the dark feminine in this case, what does the dark feminine mean to you personally?
Mm, Thank you for the question. And I love everything that you mentioned in your intro and all of the intentions for this. And I know we're going to deepen into story today. Um, the brief answer that I have for you here in the beginning is that I would call the dark feminine the transmutational alchemical force of creation. It is in all of us. It is in creation. It is in the earth. It is a part of matter and the fact that we exist here in bodies. And then our souls dance with the shadow realm of being human and like transmuting and that soul alchemy of taking what is not truth and alchemizing it into primarily love, right? Like that's where we're going. It's really what I've found, and I'm still very much a student of all of this, but it really all comes down to love. And so anything that is not love is becoming love. In listening to you read my bio, I also thought I need to update that because there's this whole other thing that has come through in the last few years, and that's what I'll be focusing on today. But it's really this work of the heartland and the regenerative feminine, and coming into a place in our feminine systems where we are sovereign unto ourselves, unto the source that created us. And we're using our energy, in a sovereign way for a thriving life. And getting ourselves free of forces that are not interested in thriving life. So right out of the gate here, I'll just address the word dark, right? Because it has these different connotations. We are definitely made to be afraid of the feminine in general, throughout history. And so we've been enculturated to be afraid of the depths, afraid of the mystery, afraid of the dark, afraid of what we find within the inner womb, right? Like the feminine itself. And it actually is scary as fuck. Like the real feminine is scary as fuck because we are this transmutational alchemical force that's just so, like wild and alive when we really tap into it, right? So there's the dark that is of creation, as in, we go in, we turn out the light, we get into the alchemy. The inside of the womb is pitch black, right? So there's that. Then we have what we could, the way that the word dark is used. What we're referring to in this other case is evil, right? So there's actual evil, there's actual interdimensional force that seeks to destroy thriving life. There is an anti-life force on this planet at play on all of our lives. And the sooner we can really realize that and begin to get sovereign, the better off we are. And this is why I'm so passionate that women know this, right? Because we can be awakening and remembering parts of ourselves and remembering the sacred feminine. And I can tell a personal story about this, but if we're not keenly aware that there is this power within us, this alchemical amazing power, within us, and we can pair with creation in that alchemy. And then there is an anti-life force. There is a force that seeks to destroy, and there is a force that does not want us to remember, does not want us to stand in our power, does make life harder, does infiltrate those that we love, does infiltrate families and lineages, right? And that has been present on Earth for thousands of years. And I think if we get wise to that, we're on to something. Right? Like, oh, that's the fuckery that's going on here on the planet. Now we can do something about it. Right. So, so it is that sovereignty and that freedom from that force that is becoming more and more and more the focus of my work, right? This regenerative feminine, this how exactly do we take the energy and also the matter that we are and make it sovereign so that this force does not have power over our lives. And that has been my journey, continues to be my journey.
Beautiful. I love that distinction that you made with the word dark. And it is so true that so many of us fear the dark, and that's become associated with everything that is dark, including places like deep, deep forests or the inside of the womb, as you said. And these are places of regeneration and life and creation and nurturance, yet we often fear them. And then there is that anti-life darkness out there as well. And I would love to hear a little bit more about your own journey and how you have been dancing with these anti-life, darker energies. Initially, not by your own doing, but kind of being thrown into that as well.
Yeah. Thank you. The way that you pose the question, actually, in the moment, I'm going to choose to tell a different version of the story than I was planning on. So in the podcast interview that we did for your Sacred Feminine Power podcast, I went into the story, just began to go into the story of being someone who was born into a family scenario and lineage that was so wild. When I woke up to it, it was like, oh, this is what was happening. This is what was happening. And so I had a family that looked pretty normal and went to church. It was like suburbia in the 80s in Southern Pennsylvania. I knew that my father had had a pretty hard life, and my mother was like high achieving and, held down the steady salary jobs and things like that. And my father would have these bouts of like addiction and disappearance. And, um, he just like totally go off the rails. And my mother would compensate for that. And so she'd say, nothing's wrong. When my body system really knew that everything was wrong. But and I'm a feeler, I'm a Pisces, I'm an emotional projector in human design. I feel with my body. I'm a woman, right? So like I'm feeling, and it felt so unsafe. But then the maternal figure in my home was saying, just eat your dinner, everything's fine. And it's like, everything is not fine. So through my 20s, um, I was owning the truths of my body, including that there had been sexual abuse. I woke up to this realization that it totally wasn't normal to have as much trauma in the body as I was actually carrying, as I was like deepening into all of these different modalities. I was walking around afraid on a daily basis. And that was conditioned. So in 2019, which in like 2017, I was breaking away from my father. I was owning more of the truth about the sexual abuse that had happened. I was preventing my child from ever being alone with my father. I was managing all of this inside of me, but I was beginning to then like own it more. When I did my TEDx in 2019 about the sacred feminine and sacred masculine and started talking about my own story, that was when my family was like, we're out. Like, went in the other direction. Like, we can't even associate with this anymore. So the being a truth teller, like being a woman, owning my voice, owning my truth, that was the first, that and honoring the truths of my body, that was like a deep and long journey. Those were very, very huge pieces to heal in myself, because when there's so much secrecy in your family and there's so many lies, you have to believe yourself in your own body and your own process and your own soul more than anything you've ever been told. And that takes a while. So in 2019, I come to find out that my father had been raised and groomed, and I truly presume that he still somewhat participates in the SRA, the Satanic Ritual Abuse Cult. And so that made so much make more sense. Now, none of this makes sense. It's like, it's fuckery no matter how you look at it. But it was like, oh, that's why the trauma feels so deep. That's why, this fear ran so deep. And then over the years, I learned about curses. I learned about things that had happened to me, through my own awakening path. And as I like one, learned more and more, because when you know that your body has a trauma past, like, that you were sexually abused, but you can't remember the memories, right? The reason that you can't recall the memories is because your system isn't prepared yet. And there's no rushing that. Like, there is no rushing that process, right? So the more we bring of ourselves and our safety online, the more we can recall. And so I was recalling and recovering, and at the same time, I had already begun asking myself really big questions like, why does patriarchy exist? Why is there this collective suppression of the feminine? Like, it just doesn't even make any sense, right? And when you start to look at that, It's not a cultural answer. It's an interdimensional force kind of
Mm.
answer. Like, I don't really talk about aliens, but it's like interdimensional forces, right? Like this is what is going on. And there is spiritual warfare happening on this planet. And there are some really grotesque things that travel through bloodlines, through cultures, through places and locations. Like these things can hijack the grids. So we have a lot of, um, like, I'm feeling not to name them specifically right now, but we have a lot of like historic organizations that build on grid points on
Mm.
the earth, in an effort to hijack the power that is there in that grid space, right? So I learned that this had been going on. I started to learn more about the SRA than I already was. Thank goodness I had, like, when my aunt came forward and told me the stories of her life and my father's life, she didn't use the words satanic ritual abuse cult, SRA, right? But everything she was telling me, I was like, oh my God, this is the SRA.
Mm.
Like, that's what this is. And I would tell you, I mean, like in the last 5 years, as I have been unpacking this, as I've been living this journey, like first realizing it and also moving through it, the world is waking up to it. The world is waking up to child sex trafficking and, blood cults and like the things that they won't release right now in the Epstein files as of now, as we record this, like that would expose this global ring
Mm.
of the sickest shit that
Yeah.
most people can't even imagine, right? Okay, so I want to bring it back and tell a little bit of the story that I was going to tell, but I'll tell the short version. So I was living on a piece of land here in Western North Carolina, and I was called here decades ago because this is where my mother's father's people are from. So there's this lineage connection to this land. And I've always loved the Blue Ridge, and it's like full of crystals. And it's just, it's home. It's home for me in this lifetime. And I was living out on this piece of property in this county that I'd known for 15 years that I was supposed to live there. And so I was finally called, and the land welcomed me. And the
Mm.
land was like, get out of your car, put your feet on the ground, and say, I am here. And this begun this relationship with this land. And this was about a year and a half after I had begun unpacking this SRA piece. And so I moved in, I moved my son, my two cats. We were invited to live with a man I was in a relationship with. He seemed very nice and safe, and it all had to happen. But um, long story short, he changed his mind. And I was like, you asked me to make a life with you. Like, what? And this kept happening. Like, this was not the first time that this had happened. So I felt this energetic come in with my father. He was willing to abuse. He was like Jekyll and Hyde. He had dual personalities. Then I was in these other soulmate relationships. I would say there were three between like 2016 to 2021, these three soulmate relationships. And they were truly deep soulmate relationships. And then the men would like turn on me. It was
Mm.
like they would like catch this bugaboo, and then like from out of nowhere be like, and I'm done with you. And I don't give a fuck what happens to you or your kid. It was like, wait, we just went from divine like connection to complete hijack is what it was. And so this man began like it was like during the first Trump election, and or maybe it was like Trump Biden. No, it was Trump Biden, right? And so there was like so much negativity on the TV in the US, and he just got like sucked into it. And one day my body and my womb said, he doesn't get into your body anymore. Like he has no more access. And our relationship had kind of begun to go downhill while I was having this land awakening. I was having this like awakening with the land. And you know, the forces were there. These interdimensional forces had infiltrated, and he was no longer allowed in my body. He had no more access to my womb, right? And very shortly after, he was like, "You need to leave, and I don't care what happens to you, and financially, I don't care what happens to you, and bye." You know, with like, I'm a mother with my son, and like no regard for the feminine principle, right? So that's a really big indicator that that interdimensional force is there when you have total disregard for the mother and for the feminine principle and for children and for life. Like when we are in that territory, we are talking about this negative interdimensional force. And so from there, I had a land awakening. I went and fell on my knees. This is a very short version of the story. Fell on my knees on this land that I had connected with so deeply. And I was like, look, I have been doing my awakening. I have been remembering the feminine. I've been walking this path. I mean, I had the Sacred Remembering podcast for years at that point. You know, I was like doing the work, but this kept happening. And it was attacking. It was like specifically affecting my resources. Now, some of it was this direct attack, and some of it was the result of the way this trauma from these forces lived in me. This, like, the way it plays out in me. And so I had this vision when I was like on my knees on the land, like begging, what the fuck? Like, I'm doing it. Like, why is this happening? And all of like thousands of grandmothers came forward. I had this vision of thousands of grandmothers. Did I tell this story on the other podcast?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay. And some of the grandmothers were like ancient ancestors from the land. Some were Cherokees. Some were orbs of light. They were short. They were tall. They were everything. And they came forward and they had drums and they just wailed, like wailed on the drums and wailed and cried with me. And they were like, the feminine's depleted. Like, we fucking get it. And we've all been feeling it and dealing with it. And you're not alone. And then they gave me something that has totally intimidated me ever since, but they gave me the heartland. And that was the reason that I was on the land. And they said, we're going to give you this codex. And this codex is to help the feminine come out of this depletion. And there are 8 parts. And, you know, and they quickly downloaded the parts. Like, I had the intel, and then I've spent the last 4.5 years like living it, you know, and really journeying with this in my own life. And I love that like didn't happen and I immediately got rich and everything was fine. Right? Because it's not like that. It's not like this picture that this new age spirituality sells us. That's like, well, if you just do this, and say the right mantra and be the right kind of feminine, then you'll have all of this, you know, prosperity. And it's like, that is so within the old grids of consciousness that are also hijacked. That, you know, more and more women we know are waking up to like, okay, well, that kind of used to work for me, but it doesn't anymore. It just doesn't even work. Right.
Here,
So,
here.
yeah. So we've got to get into these soils of creation is, you know, that was a really long story for what I said we were going to talk about today, but that led me to discovering, you know, the heartland is really about the restoration of the flow of the feminine current, um, the restoration of sovereignty of matter and of nature itself. It's really moving into nature's template for creation and like the original template of creation. And so I myself have moved away from things like feminine archetypes so much, and I'm in these energetics of the heartland of the regenerative feminine, that when we go there, you know, when we plug into that, when we allow, literally, like, it's not just an energy clearing, it's like we allow the energy and the matter and even the charge of the matter particles of who we are to change and become more sovereign. And let's do a little, maybe like a little taste of that, a little meditation of that.
Sure.
And then I'd also like to talk more about how, like, the practicalities of this and how we as women can really kind of feel hooked, and we
Mm-hmm.
can be on these treadmills of survival, and we don't even realize that there's this other pathway of sovereignty, um, to begin to move down in alignment with original creation, that I call the heartland, um, and build more and more sovereignty, build more of this partnership with creation, right? Like working with the alchemical transmutation of the earth itself, of the soils of creation, like activating this sacred remembrance inside of us, inside of our bodies, inside of our wombs, inside of, you know, the mind's got to get it a little bit, but like there are way more ways of knowing than just the mind. So, you know, this activates in us, and we are like, oh, wait, this is, I mean, to me, this is how we bridge. This is how we
Mm.
bridge from the old to the new earth, where literally the energetic architecture that holds creation is unified in feminine and masculine. Like,
Mm.
that's what it is. It is a unified creation. And we align with that and create that by being it, by remembering.
Mm. Well,
That was
new.
such a long rant. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
That's so good. I loved hearing that, Sarah, and I'm looking forward to the embodied experience of that in just a moment. But what you just said there about that being the bridge into the new earth, I mean, yes, I mean, hello, it's called New Earth. So why wouldn't we be working with the codes of the earth herself, the soils of the earth herself? And earth, of course, is formed of the same letters as heart. So there's all these beautiful synchronicities and connections in what you're sharing here, and goosebumps all over. So yeah, Sarah, why don't you take us into an embodied experience around this, please?
Also, those same 5 letters make up hearth, I
Yes.
believe,
Yeah.
right? So it's like this fire space, this like
Yeah.
center, this home fire space.
With the
Uh,
extra H there, but yes, absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, right. Because the H in the B. Oh, dang, I was wrong about that. But yeah, well, same sounds. Yeah. So what we're gonna do here is just begin to drop in. And when I lead these regenerative feminine meditations, which I do, I'm actually opening up, by the time this goes live, I'm opening up what I call the inner circle. I'm calling the inner circle, where we get together and we just drop into this more of the time, because I love podcasting. I love meeting people like you. I love conversations like this. And we need to drop into the actual energetics and experience those together way more often. So I'm really feeling the call to create a space for that. So I just want to say that, I mean, that's really big on my heart. And it feels like a directive for me right now is like, do it, right? Because I've been like, hey guys, let's talk about it. Let's talk. Well, now it's time to do. So in those journeys, they can last an hour. They can, we go really deep depending on the activation. And so right here, right now, for just a few moments, we are going to say hello to these soils of creation, to the new earth grids, and just awaken this remembrance within us. And so I invite you, if it's safe to do so, if you want to close your eyes. And this is a multi-dimensional experience. So even if you're driving your car, you can just sense it and keep your eyes open. And, I also want to say that we're used to meditations and we go off and we meditate and then we come back and we snap out of it and we go back into the 3D. And all of this that we're doing is multidimensional. It exists all at one time. So when we come back, we actually bring back the activation and the remembrance with us into our current life. So finding your breath in your body. Allowing yourself to imagine yourself in a very pristine spot in nature. And this could be a place that's real for you or imagined. Just trust whatever imagery arises. Feel how undisturbed this place is. So pristine, so original. There's no hustle of daily life. There's only nature. And you're finding yourself in it. So I'm picturing this really lush kind of grassland, and there's a creek really close to me. And in the distance, I see some mountains. The sky is clear. Everything is clear. Calling yourself to yourself now, calling this remembrance into this clear, free, clean, natural space and state. And then take your shoes off and feel your feet begin to interact with the ground beneath you and the soils that are beneath the grasses, beneath that top layer. Just open up energetically the soles of your feet and allow your feet to begin talking with, communicating with the soil particles. You know that there's mycelium, right? It moves throughout all of the particles of soil, that it's like a communication network. So we're going to imagine something like that with gold threads, actually. So this soil has this mycelial network of golden threads. And you begin to notice that the soil is so lush and so rich, like it's just been decaying and building completely undisturbed forever. And it's so porous, so fluffy, so welcoming. And your feet just begin to naturally sink down into the soil. The same way that your feet sink when you're standing next to the ocean and the waves are lapping at your feet. Just begin to sink down in. Opening up the toes, making the feet as wide and flat as possible as you reach and you feel the soil meeting your feet, your energy body. And the gold, these golden threads, they begin to communicate. They begin to activate something in you, activating this gold frequency throughout your own body. You might start to notice that it moves like opening channels. And so for today, what we're going to ask for from this new earth, from this heartland space, is we're going to ask for some stabilization in the grids of the new earth and the grids of our lives. So you might feel, if you too are prone to seeing grid geometrics, like I found out that I was, you might even feel like a vertical stabilization, a horizontal stabilization, and it moves throughout your field, even like way beyond your body. It's like the field that holds you. This is nature's template, the template of original creation, the new earth grids, the restoration of the original template of creation. So if you want to know that more, you can let this template and your soul have a conversation. And it could just simply be, yes, yes, I want to know more. Yes. So asking that each and every human who is listening to this at this time be blessed in this sacred quadrality, in this sacred template, in this new earth template, as we begin to come back to the space of the conversation. We open our eyes, feeling your feet on the floor, feeling what just happened, but looking around, recognizing 4 corners of the room, 4 colors around you. So, thank you. There was just a little bit, but there was some good stabilization there at the end. So, I hope you could feel it.
Mm. Oh my goodness me. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. That was so potent. Very, very beautiful. And as you were asking us to communicate with the grids and connect with those golden mycelial networks. Oh, that was such a strong, potent, tangible connection and like really feeling into the vertical and the horizontal grids. And what came through for me really strongly there, I didn't get any deeper answers around it, but just the waterways, the water networks underground as well, the water reserves underground, and how deeply sacred and important connected all of that is to the grids and the mycelial networks as well, and how they communicate in their own sacred ways. And I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this. And yeah, we'll definitely be doing this rounding again and going deeper with that. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. And these earth elements come in, and it's like, okay, the water is really important. And we don't need to know why we're being shown that or what exactly is happening as far as the chemistry goes. Like, I can get really kind of, I want to geek out on that. I want to be like, but okay, so these soils of creation are gonna, they're helping us transmute. They're gonna help birth new lives. Like, I want to know about the magnetics, about the electrics. Like, I start studying science, and then it's like, and you can just trust the mystery, right? So both and. Um, but yeah, the waters are so important. The crystalline nature of the waters is really enhancing on Earth right now, and the waters of creation carry plasma, like the blood in your
Mm,
body carries plasma. And so the plasma nature is also it's very important. It's capturing a lot of cosmic energy right now, and like helping to clear out these um, like the impacts and the effects of these negative forces. So I think I'd like to talk about the particle matter, Emmy,
yeah,
if that's okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
And as a gift for everyone listening, I'm going to give the recording to the first of a three-part series that I did this summer, and it's called Blessing the Particle Matter. And the matter is really very, very important. So if we talk about the feminine being matter, our bodies are matter, like we're all made of matter. The earth is made of matter. And hasn't spirituality been so interesting? Like, we've done all of this in the history about ascension, right? And we want all these like love and light codes to somehow bless the matter material body of who we are and bless us, right? Like, we're remembering collectively, we're coming back into like, well, what does this mean? So if we are a woman and we are struggling with lack, we're struggling with having enough resources, we're struggling with feeling safe in our bodies, we're struggling with being respected, we're struggling with having enough energy, like feeling resourced in who we are. These are all indicators that the matter itself is actually still enslaved to this old force. And I've never said that way, so I'm kind of surprised to hear myself say that. But the sovereignty of the matter, we haven't really begun to talk about this.
Mm.
And if we're saying, like, okay, the matter is dark, these soils of creation are dark, the inside of the womb is dark, the cosmic womb is dark. Like, we know the mother knows this and holds these creation codes, right? So if we want to bring anything into form, we have the matter, the particle matter, and we have the electrification that meets that matter. We could call that, we have the feminine and the masculine, right? Those two things are going to birth form. They're going to make more. This is how creation works. So matter, particle matter. So I'm talking about like the little teeny tiny stuff that makes us, the little teeny tiny particles of soil, the matter that has been used to create has been hijacked.
Mm.
It has been enslaved through these mechanisms, through these interdimensional forces. And you can just like stop and ask your body if that feels true or false right now. Like, what do you get, Emmy?
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
already
Yeah.
taking me down a path with mitochondria, the mother line, and how that has been
Yeah.
hijacked as well. So yeah.
Right. And the like aspects of the blood, we're talking about like SRA and
Mm.
it's, certain things that happen there, like it's blood based.
Yeah.
It's very, very disgusting, these hijacks that happen. And so this year in particular, I've been getting this reset of the particle matter itself, like of the matter that makes creation. And I sense that this very much has something to do with the cosmic clock, which holds like this template of creation. It holds feminine and masculine. And then there's like way more mathematics and geometrics than I understand. But, you know, when we were talking about the grids there in that little meditation, we know that when we start to enter the soils of creation, when we start to enter the womb, Emmi, what shape do we get? Like what geometric do we start to get in the womb?
Oh my gosh, we get the triangle, we get the circle, we get oval.
So many, yeah, I'm sorry, I like threw out a very broad question. The energy, the movement of energy, I think that we start to get is the spiral.
Okay,
Like
understood. Yeah.
the movement of energy that we start to get. And so from this, I'm going to call it a 0 point of creation, like from within the womb that is not hijacked, from within the womb that is sovereign, from within creation's, like Holy Mother's womb, we get a spiral of creation, this upward birthing spiral that like that makes things, that births, that creates, right? So the particle matter needs to be sovereign in order that we birth new form, and also so that like the truth of who we are can just be that truth of who we are and not be hijacked into these old systems, like these old looping systems that really take our energy. Like, so if we have a fear, maybe it's a fear for our children, maybe it's a fear of not having enough money, or a fear that we aren't safe in our home, like, or just a fear that we're not okay. I mean, these things are so pervasive. We all have these fears, right? Those fears can also manifest into addictions. Like, okay, I just got to grab the coffee so that I can function. Okay, I gotta, we stay in this kind of like hyper alert kind of habitually, right? All of that is a subtle hijack for the frequencies and tones of original creation. It's wild. It's like it's so everywhere that it's like, am I experiencing that? Yes, everywhere, all the time. We all are, right? So, okay, where do I feel afraid? Well, what wants to happen, right? Like a bath, a walk in nature. Oh, I'm totally addicted to caffeine. Is that good? How do I'm like giving my life force to this like thing that goes inside of my system, right? If I partake in that, so what is that? Right? So and I've struggled with the caffeine coffee addiction for sure. And it feels to me like that force coming back in and saying, like, why don't you give us some more of your energy? Right? Like, why don't you waste a little bit more of your life force? This is coming in to say, I didn't expect to say it, but like promiscuous sex.
I was just going to talk about that. And not just promiscuous sex, but even orgasm, like this constant search for an orgasm.
Yes. Yeah. If not sovereign, if not very clear in what you are creating and what you are interacting with, something else is getting your life force. And that is what the suffering is running on, right? Like the fact that we're all on our own version of a treadmill of survival. And oh my gosh, like so much compassion is flooding in, right? Because like I told in my story, it's a story that I tell because we've all experienced things like this, like the journey of reclaiming your voice, the journey of healing the trauma that's housed in your body. Like all of that is, it takes so much time and it's so precious. And it really is so, so important that we continue beyond the light work, right? Like to go into these depths and realities and claim the sovereignty down to every single particle. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Yeah. Claim the sovereignty down to every single particle. Yeah, you are so right. And that is like tingling all over my body right now, just saying those words and tuning into the deeper layers of that as well.
Yeah. So I'm very much sensing that we can get far by getting into those frequencies. So I myself am going to try to talk less. And I've talked a long time today, so y'all know I can talk. But it's like, Sarah, get into the frequency and invite people into the frequency, right? And that is what I know to do right now, to get into the regenerative feminine, to the and the earth codes give us all of it. Like there are these different codes that I've channeled that do these super high level things, but we can access them because we're picturing standing on soil and there's a gold frequency. And then like we picture these things that we can grok that, right? But these huge multidimensional things and processes are actually happening. Like there's a massive restoration going on in our own grid and our own light body in the grid of the earth, you know, as we do this more and more and more. Yeah. And I, you know, circling back to the dark, right? Creation has some secrets for us that she's not going to give us until we are ready.
Yeah, that hit really hard for me as well, absolutely. And a lot of that has to do with having a body that is of high frequency, of high vibration. And how do we nurture that within our bodies? Because these are the vessels that we've been born into. How do we look after our bodies? And what was also coming through for me is that our cells are actually regenerating themselves all the time. Our bodies are being reborn on a regular basis as long as we provide the right environment for them. And these codes that you're talking about, these particles that you're talking about, are really a very powerful vessel, powerful tool or a channel to get us there as well.
Yeah. It's my soul is like, Sarah, this is your job. Go do it. Yeah. So I've been sitting with that, you know, it's time to bring it through and just a more regular way, like a more accessible way, like let's go. And also what was the proper structure for that. So I'm getting closer to that structure, right? The masculine that wants to hold this, because I need this to be held in a way where I'm not burning myself out, or you know, I am replenished, including financially, and so that's exciting because I've done a lot on this mission, you know, feeling the instruction, but then not having like, well, what are the actual structures of New Earth business,
Mm.
that actually hold what these, the importance of these things that are trying to come through. So that is where I am right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing so much of that with us already, Sarah. And I mean, I know some of these things are not meant to be talked about until they're fully like conceived and out there. And then some of these things we have to start seeding and dropping those seeds around us so that they can then also be pollinated by other ideas, by other people's
Yeah.
ideas and so on. So I love how openly you shared about this, Sarah, and how you took us into that embodied experience as well. Grateful for that. And
Oh, you're very welcome. And I don't mean to make it sound like I've been sharing this for years. I've held Heartland containers and I hold regenerative feminine energy events, but it wants to come together in community. It's like it wants a place, that doesn't start and stop. It's not like launch based, this old frameworks that we have. It's like, but this is a continual thing. This is like something that we really need to engage in like on the regular. So my heart's really desiring that and seeking to create that.
beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Well, if our audience wanted to find out more about this, Sarah, what's the easiest place for them to go to?
Yeah, sarahpoet.com. That's where I put everything and put my energy. And then we're going to gift everyone the Blessing the Particle Matter activation, which is about an hour, I believe, from my memory. So you can go deep into the particle matter activation. And then part 2 was called the Blood of the Earth, and part 3 was the return of the masculine electric. So we like prepared the particle, we worked with the plasma, and then we brought in the masculine electrics. So that 3-part series is also available in my shop. There's a recordings section there, and so people can get some meditations there too.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Sarah. You have shared a lot with us today and given us so many golden nuggets of wisdom here as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this summit. And thank you for all the work that you do on yourself and for our planet and for humanity. And just really appreciate knowing you and who you are. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Emmy. You too. Thank you.
Blessed be. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into this chat as well. I hope you've received as much as I have. And I look forward to seeing you in our next interview as well. Take good care for now.